All right, so I wanted to talk to you about Bloom's taxonomy. In our week two folder, if you scroll down, I have some resources on Bloom's. You can click on a link to see the Bloom's wheel. You can see that there's a pyramid down here, and there's also a chart. Now, basically, what Bloom's is saying is that we have different levels of knowledge. The very basic bottom level of knowledge is remember. Then we're asking our students to just remember things like just identifying facts, dates, and so on. And we may ask them to take it a step further and understand things, or maybe apply concepts, or analyze, or evaluate. And finally, the highest level of thinking or knowledge that we would want them to do would be something that we would ask them to create. All right. So this is the basis of Bloom's. It's a pyramid. You will see here that if you starting from the bottom, knowledge is remember is knowledge. So starting at the bottom, if you were going to ask a student to do something like to choose, to define, to find, to identify, to label, we're only asking them to do the very basic recall part of knowledge. If we ask them to comprehend or understand, these are all similar, then we would be asking them to maybe compare and contrast something to extend their learning, to interpret, to observe, and so on. Why does this matter? Well, when you've been asked test questions or been given questions by your teachers over the years, they may have been using Bloom's to find out or to help you use certain levels of knowledge. They may have had you apply your knowledge by illustrating or calculating or classifying or constructing. They may have had you analyze your knowledge by showing the differences, discovering, prioritizing, examining, and so on. They may have had you synthesize your knowledge or evaluate or create your knowledge. And these are the verbs that they use to make test questions and to ask you questions. Well, why is this important? When you are using our lesson plan, you have to write an objective, which we will be doing in week two. And an objective you will be creating basically in a SMART format, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you will be creating an objective that is coming down to this evidence outcome right here, right? So you will say students will be able to read and write numbers. Maybe it's not to 1,000. Maybe on this day you're only going to do to um, 500 or something, depending on the time that you have. But these are all connected. And so you can notice here this student outcomes. When you're writing your objective, you will be using some Bloom's terms to do that. And like I have an example, I'll have to find it. In the PowerPoint that I'm going to talk to you in about a little bit, we will talk more about this. So anyway, just wanted to get you started on the conversation of blooms and where it comes from. I will be sending you more information in another video, but I want you to become familiar with blooms. I have videos, I have a PowerPoint. Um, I want you to be learning more about blooms. We're going to start writing smart objectives with blooms, and that's what we will focus on next.